Between FURIA and Black Dragons here, live at the LATAM League Finals. Your casters, Ace and Ollie.
Thank you very much, Riley. We are going to be hopping on now into map number 2 inside of quarterfinal number 1. FURIA versus Black Dragons. We get to go to Kafe, Tim. We haven't been to Kafe in a bit of a minute, so I'm looking forward to what we see here.
Often the same the world around, to be fair. As you say, Kafe, just one of those maps that seems to get kept under wraps. I don't know whether, I think, teams do tend to bring it out in the best of threes. They want to hold on to it and just keep something off the radar, and this is usually it. Now, Thatcher and Iana, they're going off the radar as they get taken out in our operator bans. That's going to be the 2 attackers down. Thatcher, pretty much standard. Iana, bit of a bold play possibly from FURIA there.
Certainly seems that way, doesn't it? Is it a Perez ban?
I mean, after the last map, to be fair, I couldn't blame them for targeting him. He's obviously hot today.
I mean, he's hot today, but he's not had a hot Copa so far. He's been one of the lowest rated players, I think, based on sort of rating alone. And from your Ash Jaeger player, you're expecting a little bit more. Now, obviously, we use the term Ash Jaeger as just a sort of loose term now because not a lot of people play Ash, though we may see Perez pick onto Ash later on when they get onto the attack, but you would expect a little bit more maybe out of that player that's meant to be on the entry, and I think he showed that inside of Chalet. He showed that potential.
Looking back at the 4 players, and I'll say well in advance, it's only a small sample size that we've got. 4 times it's been played, 44 rounds in total, but a 64% win rate for the defenders on Kafe just in the BR6 Stage 2. So out of the 4 games that we have seen on there's been a reasonably well played out advantage for the defenders. Now, we've got Black Dragons coming in and starting things on the defence here. Could play either way for them. If it gives them the best foot forward, then great stuff. If they struggle to lock this down and come away with another 3-3 half, for example, then it could be time to start worrying about them.
Yeah, I think FURIA have probably got the tougher side to start on here. Kafe is a map that is always more hassled for the attackers. And honestly, one of the main reasons for that is it can take you 30 seconds to a minute to get on the roof. If you get a bad spawn, if you spawn a little bit further out than the closest possible route, then you've got to watch out for spawn peaks and people banging themselves out of windows, which I'm expecting to see between these 2 teams, believe me. Then you've then got to get onto the rappel and successfully get yourself up to the roof. You've got to dodge the C4 that comes out of the hatch inevitably. And then you look at the time and you're like, well, that was an enjoyable 30 seconds. So that's one of the reasons why, for the attackers at least, it is a very difficult map because time is so pressured.
It really is, as you say, it takes you 30 seconds to get established on the top of the building, which we can see is now happening, but that's before you can even start with any sort of clearance. Now, we are attacking onto the top floor, so in some ways it does have less of an impact because you don't have to clear the entire top floor, because obviously you're just looking to get in, get partial control, and then move on to site to get a diffuser down potentially. But when we come into the later rounds as well, it's a point to keep your eye on throughout this, is that time factor and how teams are managing it, because it really can be a real sticking point for them when you've got to get in on that top floor and clear all the way down. I remember looking at the EUL stats recently, and in EU, this is one of the latest average plant times. We see it at like 2 minutes 51 or something, like really late into the round that teams are trying to get that diffuser down, and it could be the same issue here today.
I think if it's not a rush, it's a late plant. And that's usually how Kafe goes. If people are Amaroing up onto the roof and hopping down the skylight and lion scanning the way through, you're going to be seeing quite late executes here. Both these 2 teams showing quite a lot of respect. I'm honestly quite surprised to not see Black Dragons trying to take advantage of some of that information that they've got. Something that we haven't really touched on yet is that Valkyrie's available and being picked. I mean, the second part of that isn't really too much of a surprise. If Valk isn't banned, you better believe that you're seeing a lot of Valkyrie played. So Live has got a lot of information to be going off here. Reset's playing on the Echo as well. Black Dragons have certainly got all that they need to start making these challenges. So far, they're just taking things very steadily indeed, letting FURIA get further and further established into this push.
That's it. FURIA are doing very well here, moving through the map reasonably unchallenged. We've still got a minute left. They've got themselves control of Piano. They're in Cigar Shop. They're feeding information back in, and Black Dragons are just sort of sitting waiting for the tide to wash over them at the minute. High's looking to make a challenge onto the Valkyrie, just sees the slight pixel here and there as the man live just dips back and forward in and out of cover, but they won't be able to find those lethal shots. They do take a little bit of chip damage now. Then Ion, what are you doing? He's looking to get out of this window. I tell you now, Fantasy, he does get that kill eventually onto the Valkyrie of Live. 20 seconds left to go on Furia. They need to get moving, and with 4 men alive on the side of Black Dragons, this is not ideal. Ion manages to get one onto Fantasy to level things up 4 versus 4. Rare has diffuser in hand. He's going to need to start getting it down, but he gets taken out deep in sight. Resets and Patoxy, an important 2 kills. 4 seconds, 1v2. Surely this is too much to ask as Miracle watches that clock tick away. The final kill comes in from Freezer. Black Dragons, they keep on with that defensive trend.
And again, not much of a surprise to see that round being very heavily pressured on the clock. Something worth pointing out there is the amount of information that was available for Black Dragons. They still had outside Valkyrie cameras that weren't challenged. FURIA are running an IQ and they still can't keep up with that. You've got to imagine, you're not only trying to get yourself onto the roof so you can start your attacking round, then you want to think about finding Valkyrie cameras or any bits of utility that have been thrown out. No, thank you. It isn't something that is very practical to do. So IQ or not, those cameras are going to survive, and you're likely going to rely on naked eye to see them. And it's not something that FURIA were able to spot out. The patience and the way that Black Dragons played that, knowing that they had all that information, knowing where those players were, and instead of challenging, they were just happy to take the fights that were in front of them. They weren't trying to extend to get these free kills, air quotes free by the way, because it's going to come at a cost when you try and get yourself back in if you are going for those jump outs. Black Dragons have tempered that aggression perfectly inside of that round, and they've done a fantastic job of just letting FURIA in and then shutting the door behind them.
Exactly that. They've just kept their heads very, very cool inside of that one. We'll see if they can continue it. They're going to be heading to Reading this time. You're going to see a fairly similar defense coming out of Black Dragons. They're going to try to keep hold of top floor for as long as possible. The reason being, on the right-hand side of your screen as we look at it at the minute, that whole cocktail area is a soft floor right above the site, and the vertical angles that can be gained and the superiority is considerable. So the defenders, they will try to keep hold of that for as long as possible. FURIA going to play into it probably much the same as they have done during that previous round. Get themselves established in Cigar, in Piano, and sweep across that entire top floor from there. Force the defenders back to site and then use that verticality against them. Lender particularly on the sledge. Get in there, just rip up that floor, do some renovation work, and get those angles to just rain terror down onto those defenders in sight.
Again, plenty of information available for Black Dragons inside of this round. We get a nice preview of all of the cameras, but Fantasy, he has got other ideas. I'm not sure how, but he's already managed to get himself into mining and find a kill onto Ion. It's going to do something to remove a C4, and already Fantasy can essentially cut through that dining room site. Got a nice angle there that doesn't quite stretch to the white stairs, but it's as near as damn it, and he's going to be able to just hold that through into the fireplace. Now, the big problem is he isn't really being supported by his team, and he's quite susceptible to a flank there. That's a zone that you're going to see defenders move on through. But again, Black Dragons playing this really soft defense where they are giving up a lot of the map, and they're just happy to contest in the later portion of the round. The drone work comes through, and it's going to clear that site. Fancy now knows that there's not really going to be anybody there, and he can start to look to press this advantage elsewhere.
Bit of a stalemate reached around the mid-round as the droning continues. The information phase live was so close to hitting himself a headshot there as the man moved through Cigar, but he just pulled away at the wrong moment. He's going to continue to challenge this. Live is likely to pay his entire life here, just holding on to this position for as long as possible for the reasons explained earlier. Fantasy, he's joined the top floor attack now, and this push needs to pick up a little bit of pace. 55 seconds left to go, and they need to start getting some kills to open things out here. Patoxy just covering his man from the far backstage area there, taking those Hibana pellets off the reinforcement and helping Live stay in place. Great teamwork.
Black Dragons, again, not feeling too much pressure to challenge or move here. They're really leaning into these angles that they know to be powerful. Now we're going to see a bit of a top floor clear come in as Rare does move on through, but kills are now starting to go in the other direction as Patoxy and Live pick up a couple each. It's going to be leveled out as Rare does move his way on through. He's now looking to deal with the player inside of Freezer. We know that to be Patoxy. Gonna have the Bearing 9 in hand, but Patoxy, he takes things into his own hands. He's able to take down Rare there. Miracle, he's going to be on the site. He doesn't have the diffuser. It is a bit of a pointless endeavor at this point. The kit is being watched from above, and Miracle, he's being chipped down as he tries to make his way through. This round's going to go the same as the last. Cut down on time. Patoxy, what a big performance from him.
Looking ahead at this point and not wanting to get carried away, that's a good couple of rounds for Black Dragons here. And if they're able to shut down their map choice of Kafe, and the reason that we see it so heavily banned for FURIA is because they just don't like playing here, it could be a bit of a problem for FURIA, because often in best of threes, you've got to think when you do go to that decider map, whoever's won the second map carries that momentum forward. They're the ones that have fought back. They're the ones that have made that mental challenge onto the other team to be able to drag a map in their direction, and they go in there having just won one. So that could be a factor for Black Dragons here, and they might well just have a little bit of a benefit from the fact that their map choice was the second choice in the list. But there's a long way to go before we get there yet. We're going to be heading down to Kitchen this time around for round number 3. Nothing extraordinary on the side of Black Dragons. Vigil is one to watch out for, I'd say, X. Perez has brought along the Vigil. Been a little bit quieter so far inside of Kafe than he was on Chalet. So he's going to look to get himself off inside of the map and just try and make a nuisance of himself. And as I said, that top floor clearance needs to come down from FURIA. And an operator like Vigil plays into that time issue perfectly, because he's just going to waste a ton of it.
I think this is where we really see Black Dragons start to flex this advantage now. They've been able to pick up a couple of rounds. It isn't something that happened on Chalet. It's an entirely new mindset for these players to be in, that, you know what, we could actually storm away with a few here on the defense. There's not a lot that Fury have been able to do. They're very slow moving in the things that they're trying to accomplish, and Black Dragons are really assisting the clock moving in their direction with exactly how they are playing it. FURIA have tried for a bit more of a direct approach in sending Fantasy in, and whilst he was able to find early success, there was nothing there to back it up, and that early success didn't translate into more ground being gained earlier on. It was still a very slow and steady push. So now we see other things being brought. You mentioned the Vigil, which is going to do something to waste a lot of time and waste a lot of drones as well. Perez is feeling confident to get himself out there on the roam. He could really cause a nuisance with that. And then on the flip side, we see Miracle bring in the Lion, maybe trying to inject a little bit more pace into this one.
What I'm finding interesting here is that FURIA, by and large, are actually just foregoing that top floor clearance. They're getting themselves established inside a bakery here and looking to clear the wall out. We've got Lender with the sledge above, but he's the only player on the side of FURIA that I've actually seen moving into those upper levels at this point in time. And there are Black Dragons players up there, so that could give FURIA a little man advantage when it comes to pushing directly into sight. But what they need to be careful of is that they don't go getting themselves flanked later in the round. Now, Rare, he's going to look to get the nade in there and just try and force men back away from the breach he was looking to open up, but he got away with it one way or another. That's going to clear things out, and access to the plant spot has been gained. We're still 5 versus 5. We're at the halfway mark. Challenge comes in from Resets. It's on to Miracle at the bottom of Red Stairs, but he can't finish the kill.
This is really how these rounds have been going. There's been an opportunity for FURIA, and Black Dragons are almost sitting back and saying, well, go on then, take it. We're more than happy for you to push on in at this point, because we've got a lot of things that we can throw at you to deal with it. They've got 3 Toxic Babe canisters. They've got a couple of C4s as well. They really are able to try and contend with this. Lender, however, will kick things off. Finds a kill onto Perez. Live is now pushed forward into prep, and he's going to be playing the shotgun at quite close range. The Lion Scan shouldn't bother him too much, but Fantasy, he's been able to push his way on through and will catch Live as he tries to retreat. Now, that's a big piece of the puzzle gone, because that is going to be the Toxic Babe canisters removed. Fantasy, look at him move on through, picks up Resets as well, can now start to draw a line through that site and cut off any potential rotates. Patoxy, he's going to be forced upstairs as well, as Ion is desperately trying to discover a vertical angle. but it's all a little bit too little too late. The plant's down, and it's a 5 versus 5. This is where Furia excels. Patoxy, he's found one, but he won't find two. Fantasy comes in, 3 kills on the round there. Furia looking entirely different, attacking onto the bakery.
Furia doing a great job there in round 3 to put one up on the scoreboard. That brings them back within a round and just stops them from getting too far out of touch. The danger there for Black Dragons, of course, was running away with things and getting that complete defensive sweep of 3 sites and just being able to rinse and repeat, which is exactly what they're going to do as we move into round 4. They're going to head back up to Bar and Game, and it was a site that they won very, very well last time around. They were never really any control gained from Furia. I didn't feel it was late in the round that they were trying to get themselves into sight and to think about getting that diffuser down, and it was a pretty simple mop-up for Black Dragons on the top floor.
Let's see if Furia can make a bit of a trend of this. There's potential to level things up here. They've not been level yet inside of this one. It's been all Black Dragons up to now. I'm thinking, are they going to be able to apply a little bit more of the pace that they saw in that previous round? Because whilst Furia weren't much quicker, they were better at taking those opportunities, I think. And that's something that we usually see. Furia are a funny team as well. They're almost either flawless or bust. In that, if they win a round on attack, it's typically a flawless or very close to flawless round. Whereas sometimes when they get really, really scrappy, they're just not able to get those ones over the line. So, and that's kind of been a bit of a story of the day as well. In a lot of the rounds they came away with on Chalet, they were the only side that got flawless rounds, and they got a good number of them, or close to. And you really just get the feeling that if that momentum's on their side, that they are that team that can run away with it.
See if that happens as things progress. 20 seconds in here, we have an opener from Miracle, manages to find the head of Ion, and that is going to get Furia off to another good start. The thing is now, if they can steal away one of these big sites from Black Dragons, if they can get that top floor where Black Dragons are looking to secure themselves at least 2 rounds over their defensive period, that's a big steal for Furia, because you start looking at it thinking we're on for that 3-3 half potentially, and once they get onto the defense, that might be too much of a mountain for Black Dragons to climb. So Black Dragons need to be very careful here, even with a man disadvantage, that they don't let this get away from them. Fantasy going to take an absolute ton of damage there as bullets rain into his chest and shoulders whilst he's on the rappel. Fortunate for him, none of them caught him on the head and took him out of the round, but still he's down to about 30 HP, and that is not going to be helpful for Furia.
It's not really where you want Fantasy sitting, as you want him to have that confidence to move on through. He did have to dip off the rappel there, and I'm not sure if he actually got the job done that he was intending to do, but still, it isn't going to slow them down too much. Rare is able to pick off live, straight from underneath New Hatch over onto the Heaven balcony. Perez is going to be a tough nut to crack, though. He's going to be playing inside of the washroom. Resets gets himself droned into Freezer as well. Black Dragon's really investing quite a lot into those 2 areas. And well, they're pretty much the only 2 areas that they have left. Patoxy, he's going to find himself down as Lender shuts down Resets. Resets just getting a little bit too aggro there. You've got to hope and expect somebody to be holding on to that skylight. A revive going to come through here, but again, Furia in such a commanding position. The Toxic Babe canisters are going to cut off for a couple of seconds, but Perez, he's only got 1 left. He's going to be giving a freebie on to Fancy as Fancy tried to move on through. There's tons of drones left here for Fury, and they've got loads of time. They just need to spend a little bit of those 2 things.
I'm surprised that Fantasy's just gone running in there, not being in his ADS, just not really considering that there could be a player inside of the barback storage. Miracle taking damage on a long angle, but the kill comes in as Rare it is who finds Patoxy to save his teammate. Not for long though, as Perez will manage to finish him off. 3 versus 1, Rare getting that diffuser down. Out goes Toxic Babe, and with only a fraction of health, Rare has to come off the diffuser, but it doesn't matter because it flushes the man out of barback storage, and he gets shut down on an angle from balcony, and that's going to be round number 4 going to Furia. 2 apiece now.
Well, Fury have leveled things up here. They haven't let Black Dragons get too much of a lead over them. It's taken them a couple of rounds to get into Kafe. But so far, they've been successful upstairs. That was a side that they struggled on previously. They won downstairs in Bakery, of course, and we didn't actually see Black Dragons reattempt that site. Kind of curious to see Black Dragons reattempt the top floor as well, as the top floor for my money, isn't a very popular site on Kafe. So again, no real surprise to see back down to reading to see if they can find any sort of surety there. Black Dragons, they do need to start picking up a couple of rounds here. They are on the favoured side, so a 3-3 split really is a minimum, and they should be gunning for a 4-2.
Got to be, absolutely got to be, and you're quite right about that top floor site. I've commented before, LATAM is one of the best defensive regions of that top floor site, and honestly, it's still only ever 50-50 at best. It's not a site that seems to really excel on the defense. Reading and Kitchen tend to, around the world, have much better defensive statistics. So Black Dragons, I think, right to just move away, get themselves somewhere else and try and get reading done. And then, like you say, maybe the decision comes in, do we go Kitchen, do we go Bar, where have we felt closest? But that last round, it was just all FURIA. Now then, coming into round number 5, we've got top floor once again being set up for a hold from the defenders. We've got lines of sight being opened up just to try and make it difficult for FURIA to get in there. They don't want them feeling too comfortable too quickly. They need to make sure that they feel under the hammer here, make sure they feel the pressure. Last time around, Fancy, of course, going in through mining and managing to get himself a nice entry kill in and around train and dining, but not going to try the same thing twice.
No, I think that Fancy's probably wise to avoid that this time and instead go for a little bit more of a comprehensive push, because as soon as he got himself onto that top floor, a push really started to establish from FURIA. And I would expect to see very similar here and now. If he starts off here, we could see a bit more success inside of the early part of the round, because it took FURIA a very long time to start really significantly challenging this top floor. It's quite a one-dimensional approach as it is, so they do need to be very conscious and careful of how they start to work that. Now, we've got a lot of info, again, available for Black Dragons in the Valkyrie cameras that Live is able to chuck on out there. There should be a bit of a early warning that there's going to be attackers inside, at least, of Cigar Lounge, so you would expect Black Dragons to act appropriately here and just try and waste the time and try and get themselves back onto the site when required.
He's going to hold that angle onto the pixel spot door, looking out into White Corridor. Perez, he needs to be careful that he doesn't get too aggressive here, because if he does, he might just find himself getting removed from the round, as that angle was at least being covered. We can hear the Maverick work going on to one side. Rare just looking to open up a line into the washroom there, prevent anybody playing inside, but I'm not sure how aware they are of Perez just playing himself on the angle there. Fancy with a great flick across, manages to get the kill on to Perez, but he does manage to put some shots onto Rare. It's going to be all clear for the man to be collected though, so it's a net win for FURIA coming in there on the man count, but let's not forget they are attacking into Reading Room, so with 50 seconds left to go, there's a lot of work for FURIA still.
FURIA really can't rest on the laurels here. They've got to try and continue on to this top floor push. They've got a bit of an alternate approach coming in now. A C4 going to land from Live. It does chunk highs down somewhat. Still, Black Dragons, they're really just stacking the site. They are looking for scrappy gunfights here to close this one out. You can tell that with the angles that are being held. Very close quarters. And that's the engagements that they are expecting now. The site is no longer really a safe place to be, although Live will make a rotation back on in. Fancy, he's been able to shut down Patoxy, can continue to come down these white stairs. Lender, he's able to pick off Live. That could open up a plant, and a plant will now go down and be attempted. Ion gets a huge kill onto Fantasy. That really could be round winning as resets. He moves on through as well, but the plant has gone down. Lender coming up with a couple of kills on the vertical there to lock things off. Really keeping a good overwatch there for FURIA.
Things starting to look a little bit bleak for Black Dragons now, as FURIA managed to get themselves 3 rounds in a row on attack and give themselves, as an absolute minimum, a 3-all split on the half, where they will then come in to the defensive phase. They could well yet find themselves another. We're going to be heading back up to the top floor. It's a site that was won by FURIA in round 4 on the attack, and it was won convincingly. Black Dragons, over the last couple of rounds, I just feel like they've really started to drop off at X. They're not winning in those gunfights at all.
It's somewhere that they're really struggling. The last couple of rounds on paper are rounds that they really should be coming away with, but they're not able to contend and they're not able to challenge heavily enough. And this sort of mentality that we saw them pull off in rounds 1 and 2 of giving up a lot of map control because it's Kafe and it's going to take an attacking team a lot of time to do anything anyway, and then we're going to shut them down. It worked for them in the early part of the game. It did, you know, they were able to pick up a couple of rounds. But after that, FURIA have injected a little bit more pace. They've been much better at those trades and particularly getting that plant down there. It was a very good approach there from FURIA with the cover that they had vertically. So again, a bit of a strange one. And for Black Dragons to be coming back upstairs now, it's already a comment that we've made, but they've chosen to spend half of their defensive rounds upstairs on this top floor. That's got to be a bit of a bold decision.
It does, and I think, you know, this round probably really determines the success of it. You know, if they can come away with another defensive win here and you say, okay, you've won 2 out of 3 that you've played upon the top floor, yeah, it's probably not a resounding success, but it's certainly acceptable. But that's not going to be a great start for them as Miracle manages to find a headshot onto Ion, taking the Goyo out of things, and along with the Goyo, of course, going one of those nitros that could have been used for that vertical denial underneath. So,
oh, what?
Fantasy, I'm not sure what has just happened there. He's going to look away now, give the man his dignity at least.
Oh, there is no hiding away from stuff like this. You've got to take that on the chin, and you've just got to accept your fate. Falling off the roof, never fun, especially dependent on the circumstance. Like if you're searching for a Valkyrie camera, perhaps, and you just sort of in your ADS. I don't know how he's managed it, because you've got a vault over that roof anyway, so it really is a bit of a weird one. But alas, Fantasy will be picked up. But with the early advantage, again here, going to FURIA, I'm sure that they're not going to be too concerned. They've made an addition. They've made a change. They have brought the Monty. Typically, Rare has been running the Heart Breach. This time, however, he is going to be running the Shield. How does Lender get that kill? He has got no business taking Live down there.
Absolutely none whatsoever. Live gets those early shots and just couldn't get the MPX to bear. And to find that headshot, Lender taking little more than graze damage there, who's able to move back across. Now, Fantasy, honestly, Fantasy...
It's not his round.
This is a round to forget for the Brazilian Bolo. You know, we've referred to the gun skill of Fantasy. He's an influential player round after round for this FURIA team, but just not here in round 6 of Kafe. He's had a mare. He's had an absolute nightmare.
He has. It's certainly not one for the highlight reel, that I'll be sure. I don't think it'll be making its way onto Twitter, at least I don't think he'll be posting it, but it is an opportunity for Black Dragons to start to get something back here, and they've taken down Rare. Now, FURIA, it's the first time they've brought Monty in a while. I'm not sure if they were expecting a bakery attack or something of that nature, maybe something a little bit different, but Rare hasn't been successful in his endeavours, and it's actually leveled things up here, and with only 40 seconds left, Patoxy, he's in prime position to try and take a bit of advantage here. There's a Z-ping coming out, but also he is being pre-fired. Can he land his shots, though? The answer, yes. Able to take down highs. Finds the first. Toxie's been a big influential player here for Black Dragons, and he's in a very good position again. He's got more information, but Miracle, he's going to be better in the engagement. Picks up one. Chip damages on to resets. The down inside of the freezer as well. So essentially, we're 1 versus 1. Miracle, he's got to try and take down Perez. He finishes the downed player. He's got 8 seconds left. He has to pre-fire this. He doesn't have a lot of health, and he's going up against the best kit in the game. Perez, he makes it happen. He clutches one up for Black Dragons.
Just when they needed it as well. It was really sort of starting to hit that downhill slope for FURIA as they got themselves some momentum 3 rounds in a row. But just before the switch of sides, Black Dragons, they managed to apply that emergency brake and just bring the FURIA train screeching to a halt as they switch. The big difficulty now is, what are we going to see from FURIA on the defense? As I said, coming into this, we haven't seen an awful lot of Kafe played in the BR6, but we have seen 44 rounds of it, and it has generally favoured the defenders. FURIA, we haven't seen them play it at all, so there's going to be big questions here, because let's not forget, whilst that might not be a positive for FURIA, it certainly isn't one for Black Dragons, because there is zero information for them to go off. They don't know what FURIA is going to bring to the table here.
The last time that FURIA played Kafe, they played against Team 1. 7-5 to Team 1, so FURIA pushed it to an overtime. 4 of those 5 rounds, FURIA were able to win on the defense. So, you would wager that they have got what it takes here on the defense to try and get the job done. They've got to come out with a better than a 3-3 split. Otherwise, we, of course, will end up threatened with another OT. We didn't see overtime inside of the first map, which honestly was quite surprising. FURIA dug deep when it mattered at the end. And obviously, they've got the momentum inside of this game. It's a very tough position for Black Dragons to be in now. They are on a must-win map, and they are on a very difficult side to do so. This is their map choice, so you would expect them to have very clear ideas of how they want to approach things on the attack, because, being honest, the defense wasn't that crystal. It wasn't clear as to their exact intentions there, and I think choosing that top floor site a couple of times was maybe one of the bigger question marks that we had on the defensive rounds from Black Dragons as a whole. Early C4, they're going to come out and not going to do anything to Perez. Instead, Fantasy, he's going to be the one to pick up that opening engagement, takes down Patoxy, a big player on the side of BD.
We saw him have that important flank maneuver through Piano last time that got the round pretty much done in the end, but that's going to be good from resets, managing to get the kill onto Lender. The problem persists for Black Dragons, though, as they're unable to really take advantage when they do get those kills. Quite often, there is one that just follows straight back in from the side of FURIA, and this time it's going to be Live, who is not so live anymore as he gets put into the dirt. That's the Hibana gone, and that could be some important utility. Let's not forget that we're attacking onto Kitchen here, so wall breaching can be very important. They've still got Ion on the Maverick, and they've still got Perez on the Zofia, so they've still got the combination of operators that they might need. They've got resets on the Sledge to be able to open up those vertical angles, but they are at a man disadvantage now. And I'd say one more loss here of any of the utility they've got on the board is going to be massive, X. They need these three operators for at least the next minute.
They've got a lot of time to work with as well. This has been a very aggressive round from FURIA. They've contended quite hotly for those sort of entry points onto the map. And as a result, it has put Black Dragons significantly on the back foot here now. We've got Highs playing an interesting mirror window setup. He's actually going to be inside of Bakery, looking through back into the site. The vertical angles do start to get opened here. We can see that that nade from resets isn't going to worry too many people down in the site. And we've got Ion. He's going to be shaping up to try and get something happening now. Information's been gathered here, and Ion knows that there's going to be a couple of people in and around that area. And, well, we're going to start to see the fruits of those couple of people in and around that area. A couple of kills coming in there from inside a Bakery. One from Wedding, and then Fancy from inside of the site. Quick as a flash, we see FURIA hitting that execute.
Well, this could be out of the frying pan and into the fire for Black Dragons here as FURIA. They looked super confident in round 7. They looked aggressive on the defense, getting those 2 early kills and then just flanking down, as you said, hitting men from Bakery, hitting the Nitros. They were just absolutely unstoppable for their first defensive site. Now, interestingly, as I commented, Bar and Cocktail generally being the sort of weaker of the defensive sites, and FURIA, they really are just steering into that. They're leaning right into it. They're going to go Kitchen. They're going to go Reading. They're going to work their way up with Barbie in their last choice site here, likely for round 9, should they win this one.
And that's a big difference. You know, we're seeing FURIA take advantage of the map. We're seeing them really lean into the fact that, yeah, it is widely accepted that that top floor, that Cocktail site, is a difficult one to defend. It's got a great big skylight in the middle of it. And we saw loads of kills from FURIA through that skylight. We saw loads of pressure being applied as well. And they're going, you know what? We don't want anything to do with that. We don't want to know about that top floor until we've at least been inside a Bakery and inside a Reading room. And then we'll think about it. But even then, they've got a third choice if they need to. There are 4 sites here on Kafe, so they can make those adjustments if they feel it necessary. And so far, they're poised, ready to try and walk away with this one. 4 rounds to 3. Not too far away. And obviously, with them winning map number 1, the momentum really is going to be in their favor. Kind of surprised not to see any super hyper-aggressive spawn peaks. We saw Rare give it a go on Chalet. He was able to see a little bit of success. You'd think that this map would have it written all over it.
I mean, you'd think so, but I look at FURIA now and I feel like they sort of know they don't need to get that aggressive. Like, I feel like that's just a confidence thing coming out. Obviously, they've had a great first defensive round. And I think they're thinking, we've got this one here. What we need to not do now is throw it away. We don't want to be giving up lives too early in the round. We'll take our opportunities when they're presented to us. I don't know. That's just the feeling that I get with it. Because as you say, yes, you know, the opportunity would normally be there to really get aggressive. And we saw that in the last round. So why not double down and try to take those peaks? But as it happens, Black Dragons, they were more than ready for it. So probably the right decision from FURIA to just take the foot off the gas a little bit in the early round.
A lot of ground being taken over here by Black Dragons. There are going to be C4s below, which Rare is going to try and work with now. Obviously, with Valkyrie being available, there's a chance that there's a Valkyrie camera upstairs. And Rare could try and work with that. He's going to be holding inside of train for the meantime. I'm going to be searching out all of that utility on IQ and the scanner. As Rare just moves his way on through. FURIA have all but given up this top floor control, and if Black Dragons really get a read of that, they could start to cause quite a mess up there. If they get resets in and get him swinging that sledgehammer around, regardless of the C4s that are below, a lot of damage could be caused there.
You're right, it's almost as if FURIA are resigning themselves to having to just play on the reverse of those vertical angles, and it's always a risky game. As we've said, the favour always seems to sit with the player who has the greater elevation in Siege. Now, Rare's just watching for that balcony drop there inside of pillars. We've even got players down on the very bottom floor there as well from FURIA, and it could be one of those big brain strategies, or it could be one that we'll look back on and say, actually, they left their men a little bit shy inside of sight. Now, Lender, he's looking to get aggressive. Out comes the flashbang. That's going to hit him full in the face, so he's going to have to dip away from that fight. And here comes that vertical pressure that we were speaking about, and it's just one angle after another. Perez, he locks down Miracle with the first kill. 24 seconds left to go. Perez is traded back out. Can FURIA hold on? That, for me, is the critical question here. That is the feeling. Can they hold on? Fantasy manages to find one from pillars up onto the balcony. Being pushed from the rotation. There goes Lender, and this is all going in favour of FURIA. He comes out with the big shotgun, finds one, finds two, shuts it down, and that's a triple for Lender on the round. And FURIA, even after giving up top floor control for over a minute, somehow still locked down reading, and they teach Black Dragons a lesson.
You could see in that final kill cam as well just how little had been done to the ceiling of reading. The floor upstairs had barely been touched. We didn't see a lot of renovation work going in at all from Black Dragons. And as such, it gave players like Lender somewhere to sit to pick up a couple of really impactful kills as a very disjointed push came through, as the hand of time was pushing the players of Black Dragons into that situation. There wasn't a lot of time left. 10 seconds and you're trying to get the plant, well, you're trying to get the diffuser in, you're trying to rotate players through, you're dropping into laundry. It isn't a lot of time to start executing with, especially when you haven't really done anything vertically to significantly deal with the players on side of the site. FURIA, now they go upstairs, now they roll the dice upstairs on this top floor, but so far their defenses have been very good indeed.
They certainly have, and this is probably the big question mark for Black Dragons now. I feel that this is the sort of now or never point for them, because if you're able to get this one over the line, you look at them two sites that they've just defended and you think, which one of those is Black Dragons going to be able to come out and win? Are they going to be able to win both of them? Because they're going to have to. Simple as that. And so for me, I'm not sure that that's the case, and I think that's going to take a weight off FURIA, because even if they can't get bar and cocktail done, they've still got kitchen and reading to go back to, which they've just been very comfortable on both of them. And so for me, Black Dragons, it's real backs to the wall time, and I don't feel like they've got many opportunity for mistakes here. They're going to be punished if they make them.
In creeps that mentality as well now for Black Dragons. You know, they're in a very tough situation. This is it doesn't start to become must win just yet, but I agree, Tim. It's getting to that point of like, if you ain't winning this, you're diminishing your chances significantly, because it's going to put FURIA onto a match point. You're then going to have to push it all the way to an OT and do a lot of things that we haven't seen you do just yet. FURIA, what do they do in this situation? Bring out the castle. I mean, It's beautiful. I love it. Get Fantasy on the castle. No one will expect a thing. Why would Fantasy pick the UMP? I don't think that that's a gun that he's probably likes very much. I don't think anybody likes it very much. But the castle barricades already have slowed Black Dragons down in their approach. The bulletproof camera as well, going to provide a little bit of intel. And, well, for the first time in a long time, we see Black Dragons actually pick up an opening kill. They're able to take down Lender. And a second, Patoxy. He's able to work that skylight. This is why the top floor is not a good sight.
Absolutely not, and it's a great start from Black Dragons. It's absolutely what they needed, but look at that from Fantasy. What were you saying about the UMP? He's certainly more than happy with that one in hand as he absolutely rips the head off the shoulders of Patoxy and brings us back to a 3 versus 4. He's still playing in behind a Goyo shield in barback storage, so he can afford to get a little bit aggressive. Challenge from Cigar. I don't know how Fantasy hasn't died yet. He's just been peeking every single angle. He's unstoppable right now.
He looks like Muhammad Ali when he's bobbing and weaving, just trying to keep his head out of dodge. He drops to the prone and eventually it will be finished off. Resets. He cleans Fantasy up there. Quite rightly so, honestly. Fantasy was playing with fire, and I think that FURIA have probably relaxed into the fact that they've got a good round advantage here, and they're probably not too worried about dropping one on a site that is very difficult to defend. But we still have Rare, we still have Miracle. There is a plant that is going to start going down. Perez will take down Rare, so it does leave a lot to do here for Miracle. He gets a Toxic Babe canister out there, but ultimately he isn't able to find anybody. Perez comes in with those final couple of kills. He had a Z ping to work from as well. Much better stuff from Black Dragons.
Much better indeed, and it was the round that they really needed. They had to get that one won, but there is 2 tough ones coming up for them. Kitchen and Reading now will be the primary and secondary site that FURIA will almost certainly use, but as I'm saying that, X, I'm looking at the board in front of us, and it looks like we're going to Fireplace Mining.
This is a weird one, because you would expect if they're willing to go to this site, after Reading. And
I'd have agreed.
And not go top floor. Not give the chance for Black Dragons to become one round away. Now we get catapulted back into unknown territory, a site that we haven't seen FURIA. Okay, it defends very similarly to, Reading Room. It's not too dissimilar in that regard. It's just got a bit more opportunity for a cheeky jump in from that bakery bakery roof area. So yeah, a bit of a strange choice from FURIA, but I guess we'll see how it plays. They're obviously feeling pretty confident with themselves.
They must be feeling something. They must have something in the back pocket. And this is what we were wondering about Kafe. It's been a constant ban for FURIA almost. So I would have to say it looks like a map that they're reasonably confident at playing. They've come in and pretty much dominated Black Dragons in some of these rounds. So then that logic follows to say that they've been banning it because they wanted to keep it off the radar. And if that's the case, something like this mining defense could be the jewel in their crown, where they think, you know what, when we get to that position where it's time to take it over the line, where it's time to get that win and get us onto match point, then maybe this is the one that they bring out, the little pocket strat that they just know that they're going to get away with, or that at least they've got confidence in doing so. As you say, it's a little bit more exposed externally with that window directly into sight, so that's something that FURIA do need to manage. But I would imagine there's going to be a top floor presence once again, and that was something that they excelled at last time. They wasted time up there and then just dropped away for that final minute. They didn't give up any lives up there. I thought that they played it pretty well.
Yeah, they really did, and they've got a couple of nice tools in the arsenal now to try and assist that as well. They've gone for a kind of trap-heavy lineup in terms of the Legion and, of course, the Malusi. They're 2 things that are going to slow down an approach and slow down a push, and they've been brought with an intention. Fancy, he's been taken out again. That's some hella early aggression that Fancy is showing. He's on the alibi, so he's obviously feeling his shot at the moment. He's kind of gone from one extreme to the other, right? The UMP to the MX4 Storm in terms of fire rate. I'm not sure if it gets much more disparate than that, but he hasn't been successful there in that early defense and has instead been taken down. It's forced FURIA to drop as Lender's been chunked down as well. Now, C4 kill onto Ion will do something to relieve the pressure and the stress that FURIA are feeling, but they haven't got any control of that top floor, and they've only got 1 C4 in pocket.
Definitely some work for FURIA to do here. Resets. He's been downed somewhere else in the map, and Miracle, he's going to finish that kill with the shotgun. That's giving FURIA the advantage that they needed. Now 4 versus 3, managing to overturn that early kill onto Fantasy. But vertical control is no longer theirs. Black Dragons now have the run of the top floor and can start applying pressure to site. But we saw this previously, X. They gave it up in reading room, and it was no concern to them whatsoever. Live, he's going to transfer himself onto the bakery roof and look to start using that window that we spoke about, potentially stop the defenders moving around as much. The vertical angles. One reason that teams use vertical angles is to move defenders. You open up above common spots where players like to sit, and it forces them to move. So then if you've got a crossfire established, you've got somebody on a window ready to challenge them, that is the dream.
And that's what Miracle is feeling right now as he gets pinched and pushed. Taken down by Patoxy. He does manage to take down Live prior to that. Rare, a beautiful little flank. He's able to deal a little bit of damage and shut down Perez. Essentially a 3 versus 1 now. Live being downed. Unlikely to be picked up as he is going to be inside of the site. Patoxy, he doesn't have a great deal of information or time to be working with here. Pre-fires are going to start to come on through. Patoxy's got to hit his shots, and he's got to hit them all now. All this round is going to run out on time. FURIA, what patience they show. They don't even try and thirst after that final kill. They know that the diffuser is down in the site, and they know that they have a significant advantage. It's going to put them onto a map and a series point.
I was thinking exactly the same there for the last few seconds. The Valkyrie that we just saw a beautiful view of, not challenging onto those red stairs, just giving a little peek here and there to say, I'm still here, you still can't move forward, and just watching that time tick away. It was very clear that they were just playing the clock at that point, and perfectly done from FURIA. As you say now, they've got 2 bites at the cherry here, X, and they've got 2 great sites to go at. They're going to go back to reading room once again, but they've always got kitchen in the back pocket as well, which they won very, very convincingly back in round 7. So right now, Black Dragons, this is it. It's now or never. Time to shine. There are no more mistakes. You got to win the next 2 to get yourself to overtime, to keep yourself fighting. Kafe was, of course, the Black Dragons map pick, but FURIA have absolutely dominated on defense.
FURIA have. They've really run away with this one on the defense, and we kind of suspected that that would be the case when we saw a 3-3 split come out from Black Dragons on their defensive half. We were thinking, this doesn't look ideal. You need to be taking a lion's share of those rounds, and so far that's what FURIA have done. They've only dropped 1 round since getting onto the defense themselves, and now they're in a position to take this match, well, this map and this match, and advance on through into our semi-finals tomorrow. So a big round here for Black Dragons. It keeps them in it. It keeps them in it, sorry. And obviously, the way that Chalet was so closely contested, I don't think we were anticipating Kafe to be this sort of clear cut.
We certainly weren't. To be fair, I expected, if anything, Chalet to be the clearer cut. I thought that FURIA would come out and win that one convincingly, but absolutely not. They've come and shown a real mastery here, and I'm sure that there's going to be teams sitting up and taking notice of FURIA on Kafe now, because, of course, without seeing them play it, there was that little bit of a question mark in the brain as to just exactly how is their performance going to be on Kafe Live. Unlucky there. The man just strafing before he put that shot through the barricade. Would have been very, very close to taking what I would presume would be the Jaeger of Fantasy down from behind that shield.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that Fantasy dies from that position. He's not had a great deal of luck there so far in the past 3 rounds. Instead, he's going to look to drop himself back and keep himself alive for a little bit longer here inside of this one. FURIA again giving up a lot of that top floor control and saying, look, if you want it, come and take it. We've got a C4 that we're going to try and work with below. We've got a bit of intel kicking around as well. And we're more than happy for you to move through now into Piano and start working it, because they've got good, solid foundations that they're ready to lean back on into. Highs is still going to be playing upstairs. Unsure at the moment where his yokais are. He's going to be assisted by Lender as well. They've just got a couple of ADSs, a couple of shields, and that's really everything that they are trying to achieve there now. Of course, the IQ of Ion could be searching out for those yokais, as we're seeing Toxic Babe canister gas get tossed on out as well. Perez does get himself chunked down, but at the moment, nothing too much to worry about.
FURIA just holding fast. 1 minute 15 left to go. 5 defenders still on the board. We've got Yorkar drones. They've got utility that they can play behind. And this is all looking stacked in their favour right now. Lender, he's possibly going to get challenged on the white stairs here. But Miracle, he manages to, before that happens, find a kill with a nitro onto Perez. Advantage Furia. Black Dragons, you just feel like they're on a slippery slope. Lender, he needs to be careful not to overextend himself here, because if he does, he might just find himself falling foul of the man on the mezzanine of white stairs, because he's surely going to know that he's there given the laser sight that keeps poking out. Now, out goes the Toxic Babe canister. It will be a little bit far up the stairs to do any damage to Ion. I'm just wondering whether Lender's actually aware of the position or not, and that's a much better placement of that canister.
Well, we saw Lender have a huge thing to say previously inside of this round, that he's going to be kicking things off here, and now takes down Live, ends up his second and takes down Ion as well. Patoxy from the top rope is going to find one, but he is the last man standing here. There are 7 seconds left. He picks himself up too. This isn't beyond the realms of possibility, but it isn't going to be easy. Picks up the triple, but rare there to pick up the pieces. Furia, they do it. They take down Black Dragons here on Kafe.
Dominating in style there, but you've got to say that the end of the match felt much more one-sided than the beginning. I thought after that game on Chalet we were going to have a much closer competition between Black Dragons and Furia here, fighting out for that Mexico major position. But what we can say is that Furia, after qualifying for the 6 Invitational and putting up a great performance, they've doubled down X, and they're showing that they're